Hey everyone, and welcome back to Dallas Cowboys coverage. It's been a long off season, but I'm back and ready to get the videos going again. This is going to be a training camp video, talk about everything the Cowboys have done lately in terms of roster moves, injuries, and everything around the team as we start to look forward to our first preseason game. So just a couple days was the Hall of Fame game. It was exciting to have football back, and I'm excited to be back and talk about the Cowboys. So it's been an interesting offseason. I'd say rather uneventful for the most part, but I think we can all agree that the Cowboys at least have done something, so I think that's a positive, and that something is signing veteran linebacker Anthony Barr. I think it's a big move for the Cowboys because linebacker is a strength in terms of you have Micah Parsons, but I think there's a lot of uncertainty whether he's going to mostly be doing linebacker, mostly going to be edge rushing, and I'd like to see a lot of edge rushing out of him, especially after the performance he put on last year. So I think if he's mostly going to be taking on that role, it's really important that to have another linebacker in there. With Leighton Vander Esch, that's great. Jabril Cox hopefully can develop, but beyond them two, there's really not a whole lot. So I think adding Anthony Barr is a good veteran signing. Can't be bad, team wise, just in being a veteran to help Micah Parsons and Jabril Cox and other young players continue to learn and grow. And I think he'll make an impact too, him being a four-time Pro Bowler who, simply is not in his prime at this point, but he has what it takes. He has the tools, and we've seen him do it before, and I think he can really have a good and productive season here in Dallas. I look at this like the Keanu Neal signing, just a cheap 1 year, I think, $3 million contract, but I think he's far better than Keanu Neal was, and so I think he'll be really a good piece to add to this defense that's already strong and I think continuing to improve. So moving on to I'll stick with defense for a minute because they also signed two other linebackers a little while back, being Malik Jefferson and Christian Sam from the USFL. I think those will both be depth guys, especially now with Anthony Barr coming in. But Malik Jefferson, I really liked coming out of college back in, what was that, 2018? It's been a few years now. He's bounced around the league for sure. But I think hopefully he can find his home here in Dallas. I think mostly just as a depth piece, but hopefully he'll be able to prove himself and make a spot on the roster. So Christian Sam, again, just a depth guy. We'll see if he makes the team, but interesting and exciting to see USFL guys getting an opportunity. Speaking of USFL, let's talk about the USFL MVP that the Cowboys signed, and that's wide receiver KaVontae Turpin. I'm really excited about this one. I think this might be my favorite signing so far. The off the field issues is notable. I think that was some time ago, but definitely sticks in the back of my mind. Wish that wasn't part of this, but it is, and I think that he's a great football player, and he would have been in the league by now if it weren't for those domestic violence incidents back in college at TCU. But I just would like to think that he's put that past him and is here to work hard and focus on football. So definitely unfortunate that part of it, but hopefully that's something that's behind him at this point in his life. But let's talk about now KaVontae Turpin, the player. Really an explosive, small wide receiver. Some maybe Tyreek Hill comparisons. Not, obviously, don't be expecting that level of production and talent. But he definitely has the quickness, the speed, and something that's exciting because that's really not something the Cowboys have had in a while. They have some quick players, but never that. But it's been a while since really that wide receiver return man type of player. So again, definitely a smaller player, but he's got the speed, the quickness, and I'm excited for him. Mostly, probably going to be punt returning, kick returning. Your return specialist. But who knows? Maybe he'll crack the wide receiver room because of this next thing I'm going to talk about, and that's James Washington. So James Washington, the veteran wide receiver, the Cowboys signed from the Steelers. He was expected to be, I'd say, probably the fourth wide receiver once Michael Gallup came back. But at this point in the year, he could be number 2 or 3 with CeeDee Lamb and Jalen Tolbert, will be there as well. But obviously the injury, he did break his foot, a foot fracture in the what are they calling it, a Jones foot fracture, I believe, but that will sideline him for 8 to 10 weeks. And it's an interesting injury because this is the same injury, for example, that DeMarcus Lawrence suffered back in week 1 of last year, and he, I believe, did end up missing 10 weeks. Des Bryant suffered this a few years back. He missed a little less than that, but I think 8 to 10 weeks is a safe range. And like we saw with DeMarcus Lawrence, it was 10 last year, so James Washington will likely miss the first around half of the season. It's still early, so maybe not. Now that I think about it, we still have 3 preseason games before the season starts. So, if you could get him back around that week 7, 8 range, I think that'd be good. Maybe a little earlier. Again, we still have some time before the season starts. I don't want to get ahead of myself. We still have a full slate of preseason games, only 3 this year, but hoping to see James Washington back sooner than later. But for now, you have a real gap at wide receiver, and I think that's still something of a concern. I like the KaVontae Turpin signing. I think that's a step in the right direction. But again, you can't expect him to be Tyreek Hill on day one. You just simply can't. I think return specialist is going to mostly be his thing, but maybe he can have a role at wide receiver too. But for now, CeeDee Lamb and not KaVontae Turpin, Jalen Tolbert are really your 2 main options. And we got to remember Jalen Tolbert is only a rookie. I think he can end up being a good player, but it's early. You can't expect him to be, wide receiver 2 day 1, even though that's probably what he's going to have to be. So I think it's a bit of a concern. There's some veteran receivers out there, your Cole Beasley's, Emmanuel Sanders. Odell Beckham Jr. is an interesting one. I think he's still injured, though. It's going to be a while before he's back from his own torn ACL. But for now, it's a concern. Michael Gallup's going to be out. James Washington's going to be out. There's question marks at wide receiver. Simi Fehoko's had a good camp. Dennis Houston has had a good camp. TJ Vasher's had a good offseason altogether. So you have some bodies there, but they're very young, unproven, but, possible options. So I'm really curious, obviously with training camp going, but really to see everyone in the preseason. A lot of people aren't big on preseason games, but I really enjoy them, not so much for the game action, but really to see the young guys. And I think it's going to be a crucial one, especially for the wide receiving core, as well as the edge rusher linebacker core, because there's a lot of young bodies and, not everyone can make the team. So it'll definitely be interesting. And then, to see who can hopefully be wide receiver 3 and 4, because, you have a lot of guys. Noah Brown's another one. I forgot to mention him. But we'll see who can make an impact. Okay, so moving on, I want to talk about the kickers because it's been rough for sure. Jonathan Garibay, the rookie from Texas Tech, and Lirim Hajrullahu is back after he had 2 stints last year. This is his 3rd with the Cowboys. But, I think we were all excited to see an upgrade from Greg Zuerlein, and that has not been the case so far in training camp. It's been rough for them too. Lirim Hajrullahu, I think, has done a little bit better, but it's been rough all the way around. Jonathan Garibay has struggled to make half his kicks, and neither of them have just been consistent at all. Consistency's been an issue, but they just have not been able to get it near the goalposts on especially some of the longer field goals. Jerry Jones has made excuses like he did for Greg Zuerlein, but I think as fans we're tired of that. We all miss those Dan Bailey days, but it's definitely a concern at the kicker position. I'd still consider giving Kai Forbath a call. Not that, I'd expect the Cowboys to do that, but it's a concern because neither of these kickers has proven themselves, and they still have a lot of work to do if they want to be the day 1 starter and do a good job doing it. All right, what else do I want to talk about here? I want to talk about the rookies. I didn't really get to go that deep on them. So Tyler Smith, obviously your first-round pick. I think a lot of us have had second thoughts, initially, but I think a lot of us, he's grown on me for sure, and I think he's grown on a lot of us. He's really looked like he's there to work hard. He's already lost weight if you've seen those pictures from rookie minicamp to now. But I really think he is your day 1 starter at left guard, right next to another T. Smith with Tyron Smith. And I think he's in a good situation. I think he'll learn behind the veterans on the offensive line, and I think he will do a good job. He has some development to do. He has some inconsistencies in his game going back to college, but I think he really will be a good and very important piece on this team, and hopefully he can develop into maybe your future left tackle, even after Tyron Smith retires. Jalen Tolbert, we talked about, he's going to be thrown in there pretty early. I think he's a good player. Got to give him some time, but we'll see how he does at wide receiver. Sam Williams is another player I'm really excited about at the edge rusher position. I think he was really underrated coming out of college. Played at Ole Miss, an SEC school, and he put up incredible production. I believe 12 and a half sacks, a lot of tackles for a loss. He made an impact as a pass rusher. He's raw for sure, and he'll have some growing to do, but I saw his stats side by side by the number 2 pick, Aiden Hutchinson. They were very similar. I'm not saying he's Aiden Hutchinson, but I think he has a lot of potential, a lot of room to grow, and I think he will do that when given the opportunity, and I think he will get it to rush the quarterback, and I'm really excited to see what he can do. So those are my main 3 rookies. There's some other guys. Matt Waletzko, he was also injured. That's worth noting. I think he'll miss some time, so who knows, maybe he'll start the season on either at first, or for sure I'd say injured reserve. Maybe, yeah, I think that's going to be it. I think he'll most likely start the season on injured reserve. We'll see if he's sort of an IR stash like Josh Ball was last year. I wouldn't be surprised to see that. So I think we'll have to wait on him. Also a raw prospect, but has potential for sure. Same thing with Damone Clark. A different situation. He was injured going back to college. Jerry Jones has emphasized that he has a chance of playing this year. Initially, I think a lot of us thought that he would not play at all in his rookie year. But whether he does or not, I think he's an interesting prospect. He's a great player, did a great job at LSU, and I think he could be a key piece for this future linebacking core. Whether he plays this year or not, I think he could really be a key part. He's shown eagerness to learn and really be a part of this team, and I'm excited to see what he can do as well. So I think those are the main rookies. I'm trying to think if I'm missing anyone important. I know there's obviously other ones. Oh, John Ridgeway, I think, is a key one too. Defensive tackle position is very young and very up in the air. I think Oso Odighizuwa and Neville Gallimore are your main 2 guys right now. Tristan Hill, Carlos Watkins. There's a lot of bodies there, but no one that really sticks out. I look for Gallimore and Odighizuwa to really take that next step. But Jonathan Ridgeway could have a role as a nose tackle as well. So I think that's good for sure. Who else am I thinking of? Undrafted rookies. There's a lot of guys there too. The wide receivers I talked about earlier. Some good safeties. Marquese Bell has made an impact early on. Daron Bland. There's at cornerback. I don't think he's going to have much of a role. I think he'll be a lot like Nahshon Wright was last year. He was your 5th round pick, I believe. But there's a lot of corners in that. There's a lot of bodies in the cornerback room. So I don't think he'll really see a whole lot of playing time. So I'd look for him to mostly be a special teamer in year 1. So those are the main rookies. I know there's other guys. I'm not going to talk about every single one. But I think those are your main guys that are going to be making an impact, hopefully, on this team in year 1. Again, I look for those top 3, Tyler Smith, Sam Williams, and Jalen Tolbert. Really excited about them and really excited to see what they can do year 1 with the Cowboys. So those are my main training camp notes so far, along with signings and injuries. Look for another video to come out after the preseason games. I'm not sure I'll be available after the first one, but definitely after the second one. Look to see a video coming out. I'll break down probably both of the first 2 and see how the roster's looking, who I think is going to be making the team. It's a little early for that, but it's been exciting so far in training camp. I think there's been a lot of guys making an impact. Of course, the veterans, Ezekiel Elliott, Trevon Diggs, CeeDee Lamb, have all been spectacular. Of course, Dak Prescott. I didn't even really get to talk too much about them, but I think they've been doing a good job. Hopefully, Zeke especially can get back on track, as well as Tony Pollard can hopefully continue to develop. And I just hope also the offensive line is able to stay healthy, be consistent, work together. I think that's a key piece. And I think the number one thing for this team is to improve from last year. I think roster-wise, it's tough to look at this team and say they truly got better, especially after the losses of Amari Cooper, La'el Collins, and Randy Gregory, 3 really key pieces on this team. And it's tough for me to look and say this team has really gotten better from a roster standpoint right now. There have been some decent free agent signings, but obviously no one really that big. I like Anthony Barr, but other than him, it's not a whole lot. Dante Fowler, James Washington's hurt, and maybe Ryan Nall at fullback. It hasn't been a lot. So I think the Cowboys are really going to have to rely on the draft picks, the rookies this year. And it's just going to be all about chemistry and I think also play calling, because this team on paper does not look a lot better than last year's. But the difference is going to be execution, especially offensively. I think last year, coming into the preseason, we were all worried about the defense. This year, I think I'm a little more concerned about the offense. They have the talent for sure. They've lost some guys in Amari Cooper and La'el Collins. But I think the main thing, it's going to be on Kellen Moore, whether he can really come up with a game plan and really play call to make this team do what they have the potential to be doing, because we've seen them be the number one offense based on analytics for multiple years now. We know they have the star power. We know that they can get it done. But it's going to be what it's going to come down to is whether they can get it done or not in the key moments. That's going to be key, and it's going to be consistency as well. Just staying consistent, getting it done every single time. Obviously not every time. It's not going to happen every time. But really growing every week. It felt like there was a lot of inconsistency, some regression at times last season. It's going to be consistency, and offensively and defensively, it's going to be discipline. There were way too many penalties last year. It really shot us in the foot many times, on both sides of the ball. That's going to be key, and that's on the coaching staff as well as the players. So I'd look Mike McCarthy, Kellen Moore, Dan Quinn. It's going to be a lot on them. I'm really glad we were able to retain all 3 of them, especially Dan Quinn. And I just hope that they can continue to develop the rookies, continue to help the veterans, and really get this team in the best position they can be starting the season and all throughout. So really hoping this can be a strong team this year. I think we're a playoff team. I think we can win this division. The Eagles are better this year, but I think we still have the division. It's just going to be if we can get it done all season long, and especially into the postseason. And that all starts right now with training camp. Got my hat on. I'm sure you guys noticed that. So I'm excited to continue to watch, and especially as we go into our preseason games. So I'll have more coverage then. I'm back now. Off season's over, and I'm really excited to get the season started. Thanks again for watching. Again, feel free to like, subscribe, comment. If you enjoyed the video, let me know if you have any questions, suggestions for other videos, anything else you want me to talk about or discuss. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.